has told a hearing into police brutality in Washington it's time for the government to step up.
George called for help and he was ignored. Please listen to the call I'm making to you now, and the calls ringing out the streets across the world.
An Irish travel agency says up to 80% of its customers have deferred their foreign holiday this summer. Platinum Travel say they've been getting inquiries from people looking to go abroad. Many are being put off by the idea due to 14-day quarantine rule. Ciara Foley, managing director, says people who have booked their holiday late in the summer are still hopeful.
As it goes on week by week, month by month, it's such a fluid situation. But for the most part, people have moved their summer holidays to later in the year or next year.
That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. For great value van insurance, go online to theaa.ie.
Some bright spells, but mostly cloudy with showers. Hail is possible in some areas this evening. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Wednesday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us, everyone in.
Now you're welcome along to Wednesday Night Rugby. Great to have you with us. Bernard Jackman is our guest this evening. You're there, Bernard. How you doing? Oh, sorry. Not there. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take a very short break. Apologies for this, and we'll come back with Bernard Jackman.
Wednesday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us, everyone in.
With all the gigs cancelled this summer, doesn't a little music go a long way? Well, every week on The Pat Kenny Show, we're celebrating the best of Irish.
There's only a long road to lead.
The artists, the songs, and the music that inspired them. Continuing tomorrow morning when we're joined by Liam O'Wanley of the Hothouse Flowers.
The Pat Kenny Show.
Thanks to spiritmotorgroup.ie.
Tomorrow morning at 9.
On News Talk. Wednesday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us, everyone in.
Okay, full start. Hopefully, Bernard Jackman, you can hear me now. How you doing?
Yeah, Joe, sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Good to have you with us. So look, we were hoping to check in with you anyway, actually, and have a chat maybe about life after rugby. And then I saw, and you almost kicked off a discussion with Ronan O'Gara and Matt Williams on Monday night's edition of the Rugby Chat. You were talking to Gavin Cumiskey in the Irish Times about a pretty interesting thing which has been going on. You and fellow coaches, it seems, from right across rugby are getting together on Zoom calls, as we all have been doing over the last while. But you are doing deep dives into various aspects of the game. You're making presentations to each other on your own various areas of expertise. Sounds like a pretty interesting endeavour.
Yeah, it's been brilliant, to be honest. It started off quite organically. A couple of coaches that I coach in France reached out to me to have a chat and to see what was happening this side of the world, and went really well. And then they were like, look, we've gone from having full schedules to having a lot of free time, and they asked, could we start to actually deep dive into different areas of the game, like counter-attack, defence, set piece, etc. And as the weeks went on, it just built in terms of, they obviously mentioned to people in their network and coaches that they were friends with, and suddenly it gathered a bit of momentum, and we had 15 and 16 guys, and now we've about 38. And the great thing is we've got coaches all over the world, and all bar two of them are full-time in the game, and I'm one of those who isn't. So they're all in really good jobs with pro teams. Just really keen to try and use this lockdown and turn it into a positive, to improve their network, but also, I suppose, improve their understanding of parts of the game that maybe they don't coach, or parts of the game they do coach, by sharing and I suppose problem solving with other coaches who are either more experienced or have a different point of view. So it's been phenomenal.
Did I read in Gav's piece, for instance, Joe Schmidt did a presentation on the breakdown?
Yeah, so that's how it got out, to be honest. We were trucking along nicely without anyone knowing about it, and I think Joe was on Off the Ball, and he mentioned that he presented to our group, and he did. And in fairness, I was asked to ask Joe, and I did, and thankfully he very kindly said he would do it. And Joe's understanding of the breakdown and his ability to coach the breakdown is phenomenal. It's known worldwide, and it was a couple of Kiwi coaches who said because Joe was very open. He said, listen, what topic do you want me to cover? And we had a bit of a chat around, and they said we'd love them to speak about the breakdown. And it was really, I suppose, it was perfect timing, because obviously, as you know, Joe was working with World Rugby on how to break down as refereed and try and make it more safer. So we were kind of getting feedback from him around how the game is likely to be refereed around the breakdown. And in fairness to him, he was asking the coaches for their input, because it's still a work in progress. I think there was another meeting with World Rugby last week. It's about 3 weeks ago since he presented to us, and he was so good with his time, and everybody loved it. And we've had Rob Penny, we've had Jamie Joseph, we've had Scott Wisemantle, who was with England for the World Cup final, and now he's with Australia. We've had a vast variety of coaches present, and then we've had their guest presenters, and then we've had people. Pat Lam is actually part of the group, and we've had then people from within the group present on their area of expertise. And they said it's been harder to present to coaches than it is to players, because obviously they're your peers. But it's been a good experience for them.
It sounds absolutely fascinating. It is such a technical game. I mean, it's one of the few sports where we have various coaches in here at different times doing interviews, and they will openly concede there are huge parts of the game they know very little about. I mean, we will have coaches in here saying, well, don't ask me about the scrum. I don't know what goes on. That's not really as applicable in other sports. A GAA coach knows the game. Might have been a forward in his day, but knows the game equally. Same thing in a soccer coach or whatever. So in rugby, I can imagine there must be coaches there who are head coaches and trying to figure out this whole thing. And there must be huge areas of huge blind spots rather in the game. So I can totally see the appeal of this in a sport like rugby in particular.
Yeah, so for example, we have a coach, South African coach, who was coaching full-time in Japan, went back to South Africa, and he's taken a head coach job in Moscow. So he was a defence coach all his career, and he's a head coach now in a professional club in Moscow. But he's loving this. I mean, we've had line-out breakout groups where we actually did four sessions of 6 hours on lineouts. And like
it's real rock and roll stuff, Bernard.
Yeah, no, honestly, you have to be, something a little bit messed up with you to be that into it. But like for him, he was getting, a really deep understanding of what goes into it, building a lineout. Now he doesn't have to coach the lineouts in Moscow, but he doesn't have a staff that are as complete as professional teams in the Viva and the Galar Premiership or the Pro 14. So he does have to understand that and supervise that. So, he really enjoyed that. And then within that, we had 6 actually coaches who coached the lineouts for their clubs, and so one in the top 14, one in the Pro 14, 2 in Super Rugby, 1 in the Japanese League, and the other one was international level. So effectively, those 6 guys, they knew each other, but they'd never really shared more than a meal after a match. And yet, they've been able to, I suppose, work on little projects together, and just try and go back to their clubs or teams, with new ideas around better ways of training, better ways of running their week, better ways of running a line-out, and hopefully the players will benefit from it.
So, for instance, you've had a professional career spanning guts of a decade, if not slightly over a decade. You've played Test rugby, you've been a European Cup winner, you've been a head coach in 2 different countries. The breakdown, something like the breakdown, is so intrinsic to the game. It's something you must have thought about ad nauseum right through your career. When Joe Schmidt makes a presentation for an hour, are there aspects about the breakdown that you're learning about that you did not know about?
Little bit. Look, in every presentation, probably there's 2 or 3 little nuggets that make you think about it differently and go away. And you mightn't go, you might reflect on it for a week and come back and not change your opinion on what's right, what's wrong. But it's having that, I suppose, difference of opinion or different ideas or different philosophies that make you go and question things. And I think that's the secret to be a really good coach. I think you need to be really sure around, what your philosophy is. And the best way to be sure is to be tested on it and to probe and question yourself and have others question you. So without a doubt, there was definitely 2 or 3 little nuggets Joe, I suppose, highlighted, that we all went, well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way before. Or there's one thing that, you could say, well, I could really add that to our training sessions, or how we model it. So, and that's been the case. I mean, there was another brilliant one, which was the Japanese skills coach who spent 4 years with Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown, leading into the World Cup just gone. And, his whole explanation of, he played for Eddie Jones, so he was part of the 2015 squad as a player. He obviously beat South Africa, and then he became a coach. And the 4-year cycle that Jamie Joseph, I suppose, managed to lead Japan into a home World Cup, and we all know how successful that was for them. And they kicked on again in 2015. And I suppose just that, alignment between Jamie Joseph and his coaching staff and the Japanese Rugby Union and the Sun Wolves, and they effectively had a year camp going into the World Cup. He used the Sun Wolves for game time rather than actually as a competition in itself. So they had massive cohesion going into the World Cup. And then obviously we all know the Japanese attack was spectacular, and just him explaining, how they trained the attack, what their principles were, their work around the breakdown, and some of the key stats that they would have lived or died by. There was areas, so there was a couple of other things in that, in terms of how they measured success, that none of us had heard of before. And like I said, there's 38 in the group now. Some of these guys, there's a couple of guys in the group who won a World Cup. So they're not, I suppose, apprentice coaches. These guys are living and breathing this in the top leagues or international rugby. And yet, from his presentation, there was probably 2 or 3 things where we all agreed, we thought were really interesting, and, we needed to come back and chat the week after and see where we're going to implement that into. Obviously not for me, but were the others going to implement that into how they, I suppose, analyse or stat their attack. And that's been good. And in fairness, what we try and do is we always try and come back the week after and recap on the week before, and it generally throws up a lot of questions. But to be honest, it's got better. I mean, at the start, people didn't really know. I was kind of the common denominator, so it was kind of my network. But there was people who'd never really communicated or met each other before. Whereas now there's a real kind of comfort, or the jargon of psychological safety, where people are not afraid to speak up and say, look, I actually don't really understand that. Can you explain that to me again? And that's probably been the best part of it, is that we've all become very comfortable with each other, and there's a level of trust there. And it's been really interesting, And I think as well, we're in lockdown, so the coaches have time, and I don't think when they go back playing. I mean, we have a couple of fellas coaching Super Rugby in New Zealand. They're obviously back, and they've missed a couple of sessions, which is absolutely understandable. And I'd imagine that as the top 14 goes back in the Gallagher Premiership and the Pro 14, it will definitely, I suppose, calm down. But up till now, they've said, look, they'd love to try and keep it up on a bi-weekly basis, and depending on the topic, they'll come in, So you might end up with having 10 or 12 people talking about the scrum, and that's great because those people will be interested in it. And then the following fortnight, you might talk about the offside line or whatever. So it's been good, and I think, like, speaking to some GA coaches and soccer coaches who I'd be in contact with, I think they're shocked by how open people are.
Well, I'm shocked as well, I have to say. I mean, Paul O'Connell famously talked about playing against Leinster all those years when Joe Schmidt was coach, and not understanding how he couldn't get near the ball until he worked under Joe Schmidt with Ireland. And it does beg the question, if I'm in your 38-person group and I've sat through the Joe Schmidt presentation, if down the line I'm playing against a Joe Schmidt team, that will equip me, I would have thought, in a far better way to do damage to his side at the breakdown, no?
No, not at all. No, and Joe didn't give away, there's nothing that you wouldn't see on studying footage of a team. But what you're getting is the understanding and how it joins up a little bit better. But having said that as well, Joe, I mean, these coaches are already evolving that. This is what they did last year. But, the lead coaches and the people who have a real growth mindset, don't believe they have the the game solved. They're already looking at what they're going to add to that. So I think it's a reflection on what they've done up to now. But the good people and the people who are engaging and want to get better, they've already moved on. And like, that's why Kiwis have always been incredibly open. And I know Ronan and Matt spoke about that review process at the end of the year, etc. And it is a deep, it's a huge part of why they're so good. But we've been going to New Zealand for our off seasons to do our personal development for years. They've been going to the States. They've been going to the NFL, NBA, college football, NHL, and that's where they're getting their personal development. So, and again, why did New Zealanders let people come in and learn from them? It's because they're already moving on, and that's the thing people need to understand is that if you're going to go into next year with the same game plan and the same philosophy, you're dead. And I think there's teams been caught out with that before. So that's why I don't think there's any worry with sharing it, because the game is changing, and the coaches who are changing the game are the ones who have a more open mindset.
This all ties in with a question I was going to ask, because we were going to reach out to you and try and have a chat anyway. In the midst of all this, it's time to draw a breath and catch up with people, and you're obviously out of the game now, and very consciously out of the game. You decided, you made your choice that you were going to go, I suppose, for a more stable form of employment. So let's leave this WhatsApp group, segue from that into this conversation. Are you doing this as a pundit, or is there still some part of you that has there's an itch there, there's an inkling there, and you're trying to stay with the most modern of trends? I mean, what is this? Is this you're kind of half glancing back and thinking, "Oof, I do love this world." Yeah,
look, this started off as doing a favour to a few of my former coaching friends who were looking for, I suppose, an avenue to get better, and it's just grown over the last 10 weeks. And like, the funny thing is, I'm at the fulcrum of it, but the reality is it could carry on without me now. All I did was kind of be part of getting it started, and like, I'm the only one in this group who's not professional coach at the moment, but that's fine, because I love the game, and I'm picking up a lot of stuff around leadership, culture, management, which has helped me in my day job. And then I'm also, I'm coaching in Becta, which I want to be a better coach for them. I did a little bit with my old school last year, and from a punditry point of view, like, I'm absolutely passionate about it. Like, for me, it's gold to be able to hear these coaches, I suppose, explain what they're doing, because I love the game, but I don't love the game enough to want to be a pro coach, if you get me, because there's other ways of making a living, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
Remind us what the new role is, or what the
so I'm an account manager for a company called Refinitiv, which is financial data. So there's a lot of alignment between what I'm doing. So basically, we sell data to help companies make better decisions around financial investments. And again, from a coaching point of view, I like to use data to try and understand performance. So it's been brilliant, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm working with good people. Yeah. And
when did you finish up with the Dragons, Bernard? How long out of it are you?
January 2019.
19, okay. So we're coming up on 18 months.
Yeah.
And when post-January 19, because I'm sure the Dragons' experience was very difficult, and there were financial constraints, and you were starting from a low base, and then unceremoniously, as happens in that industry, it ends. How quickly post-January 2019 did you say to yourself, you know what, this is too risky, this is too much of a strain on the family, I'm done?
To be honest, it started before it ended. I was like I never thought I was going to be a professional sports person. When I left school, I studied international marketing and Japanese. When I retired from playing, I went back and did a master's in UCD. I was always prepared and ready to try and prove myself in another industry. And that's not saying that I didn't love what I did. Rugby's been incredibly good to me and my family. But I still love the rugby. I still love the punditry. I still love going to games. I still love coaching. But it's just a case of, I suppose, trying to see, can I be successful in something else? And up to now, it's gone okay. But it's there's a huge amount of other opportunities out there outside of pro coaching. And to be honest, I actually was on a call at the start of start of lockdown. I got asked to go on a coach's call, a different group, and it was around transitioning from coaching or transitioning from pro sport into the real world. And I expected it was a group of coaches, and I expected it to be, I suppose, my experience of transitioning out of it. And that's what it was supposed to be. But when I got on it, I found all the coaches were preoccupied with the players not having the tools to transition. And look, it's brilliant. I think that's what good coaches do. They look after their players and they put the players first. But I suppose my point to the group was, look, if we have, as coaches, you've got a skill set, whether it's management, whether it's, it's work ethic, whether it's organisation, whether it's communication, whether it's mentoring, coaching, that is transferable. But there's a certain amount of coaches in the game who fear, I suppose, the day they get sacked or the day they can't get another contract because they don't understand the skills are transferable. And I think they are. I think the level of dedication you need to be a pro coach and the skill set you get at the highest level, those skills are transferable. And I'm enjoying testing whether they are or not, and trying to basically learn a new industry and trying to prove that I can do it. And it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant for my mind and a great challenge.
Because I remember at the time when you were making this decision or publicly deciding that you were going to leave professional coaching behind, you're 44 years of age now, for instance, and I remember you making the point that if I take another job and maybe that sucks up 5 years or goes very well at 6 years, or I take another 2 jobs, whatever. So if I let another 7-8 years go by, and then I still come to the conclusion, geez, there's no stability, it's really tough in the family, I could be sacked at any minute. If I'm going to try and transition into the real world at, say, 54 as opposed to 44, am I right in saying you felt, geez, I could be leaving it too late here? I almost need to go while I have a bit of youth on my side.
Yeah, 100%. Like, how can you go in? Look, you can do it, but I didn't fancy going into a company at 51 or 2 and starting on the same level as graduates. I just, and also you don't have enough time to. It's very hard to get the experience under your belt and the learning and the track record to get high up in corporate world. If you only have a career of 13 years, you start at 52 and you can go to 60, 65.
Yeah. Was there a sadness about that decision? Because, look, we all have dreams and aspirations, and I'm sure at some level you thought, well, maybe things go spectacularly well and it goes Grenoble, Dragons, Irish province, Irish manager, Irish coach down the line. You can have that dream, which at some stage you have to realistically look yourself in the mirror and park.
Yeah, look, I think you can have that dream in doing something else as well. It's like in whatever career or area of life you're in, you want to be the best and achieve your potential. So it's just a case of transferring, I suppose, that passion into something else, and then working really hard smart towards that. So, like for me, if I can, I suppose, achieve what I want to achieve in the business world, well, and I retire and I look back and say, well, I didn't do too badly as a player. We had an unbelievable experience as coaching in France and in the top 14 and Pro 14, and look at why it didn't work, etc. And then we did the corporate world then, and I achieved what I wanted to achieve. Well, how bad? I think the being able to be, I suppose, multi-dimensional, multi-skilled is something that I think is important, and I'd like to be seen as having conquered. So that's where I'm chasing.
Yeah, it's definitely the right attitude. I mean, I've no doubt there are lots of coaches in their late 40s heading into their 50s, and like any profession, you can be deemed over the hill or like the game has passed them by, and I suspect they're terrified of the chop at any moment. Yeah,
like I said, I've been in that position, and I think that if you're coaching and you don't have an out, you may make poor decisions based around, I suppose, survival. And I remember Michael Cheika in Leinster. I think what I really admired about him was he didn't fear the consequences of the team losing, or he was willing to push the board to give the team what they wanted and risk getting sacked himself at times, because he had an out. He come from a background where he wasn't reliant on professional coaching, and I think.
Well, he'd made his fortune in the fashion industry, so this was almost a hobby to him.
Yeah, absolutely, but again, it allowed him to make decisions purely for the right reasons. Yeah. And you look at the great coaches, the Eddie Jones, the Warren Gatlin's, the Joe Schmidt, the people who've had, consistent success. The reason, a tiny part of the reason they've had success is because, they know that if they don't if this job doesn't work, they'll get another one because of what they've done before, and that allows them, I think, make decisions in a far better way than somebody who fears, I suppose, that sacking or not getting another contract because they pushed the board too hard, or they didn't push the board hard enough, and they compromised, and then your goose is cooked anyway. So yes. I think that's something I didn't want to be in, and unfortunately, I do know some coaches who are at that stage where they've gone from being professional players into being professional coaches, and they're looking now if rugby, and obviously it's a difficult time with the cutbacks that are happening. If professional rugby is an option for them, they would be seriously stressed and worried about what else they could do. And like as I said, I felt I was getting very close to that cut-off point. For me personally, other people could easily transition, at 55. I just felt the time was right, and from a family point of view, my kids, I want to give them some stability. That this was the right thing for me, and also, I mean, effectively, as a rugby coach, you're relying on a lot of other factors to deem whether you're successful or not. Whereas in my current job, I work with a team, but I'd say 80% of my success would be down to me, which is it's comforting in some ways. Yes,
you've a bit more control over your own destiny, I suppose. I mean, it's a point which has been made of late, but it's worth just noting again as we finish up our chat. You're clearly not the only one that has come to this conclusion about the coaching game. Like, if you look at, I don't know, do you want to call them the golden generation on? We've had a couple of golden generations back to back to back now, really. But you're trying to think of the high-profile players who've decided to commit to coaching. There's obviously Ronan O'Gara over in La Rochelle, and Jerry Flannery's given another go with Harlequins, and you've Felix Jones, and I think you've Jared Payne, and you've Leo Cullen clearly as well. But you start to run out of names pretty quickly, and there's some fairly high-profile, glaring omissions who've looked at the deal and said, an awful lot of downsides here, and clearly an awful lot of reasons to stay out of it. Probably not the most appetising world, as opposed to a soccer manager. If you get in that managerial merry-go-round and you get your payoff with every sacking and you get another job, it's kind of a lucrative deal one way or another. But rugby professional coaching is clearly not for the faint-hearted, and a lot of your contemporaries have made that decision. Yeah, and again, a lot of the guys in my group, they're living in a different country than their family. Their immediate family are with them, but they're South Africans in France, or they're Australians in Japan, or Australians in England, and that's fine. That's absolutely brilliant, and they've made that choice. But don't forget the family that moves with them, and you're taking kids away from grandparents, etc. And even Andy Friend, I mean, he's a fascinating guy. And I read, I can't remember how many house moves him and his partner have had. And I look at there's certain people that's an unbelievable life experience. And I said we've had that in terms of France, etc. But there's a choice everyone needs to make around whether they want some stability or whether they're happy to go from job to job. And the reality is for 50-60% of coaches, it is club to club. There's only a certain amount of coaches who spend their whole career in one place, and it's probably rarer than it is common. So, but look, everybody, it's still something that a lot of people aspire to, and it is, it's a great ride and a great journey. I'm not saying I would never deter anybody. In actual fact, I'm trying to help people who want to get into that sphere in terms of helping open doors and helping give them little bits of advice. Yeah.
But for, you have to have the, I suppose, the independence or the maturity to say, hang on, for us as a family and for me as an individual, is what's the best next step?
Yeah.
And there's no doubt I could have stayed coaching, but would have had to leave Ireland again, possibly. And would that just delay? If I didn't leave Ireland, would I be in that rat race and at 47, 48, wondering should I have done something else? So, that's where it's at the moment. But it's been, as I said, I love the game, and I do want to be a better coach, and whether that's coaching Invective or Newbridge or whatever, you still want to be good at what you love.
Yeah. Listen, really good to catch up and have the chat. If you want to compile all of these various lectures from the last 10 weeks and we can put together some kind of university-esque seminar, we can compile them all and put them out for you. I'd say, geez, I mean, are they recorded? Has anyone recorded?
Yeah, we record them, but we have a very strict rule. And in fairness, since that article in the Irish Times, that last Friday, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, can I join the group? Sorry, and then, but can I get the videos?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I understand, I would have been the same myself, but no, because people are open up and really giving kind of honest opinions and insights into how they see things. And it's different. There's been loads of webinars and there's been loads of really good Zoom, Stuart Lancaster's been phenomenal, Eddie Jones has been phenomenal, and there's definitely pitch you can get from that. But I suppose the beauty of this is that, it's not going out to the general public as such, so you can probably go a little bit deeper.
Okay. Well, look, the challenge is out there if anyone wants to try and hack in and publish it. Bernard, good to catch up. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bernard Jackman there.
Wednesday Night Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. Team of us. Everyone in.
Relax this evening and visit itsforwomen.ie. Great value car insurance for those on the go. Get the cover you need day or night at itsforwomen.ie. It's time to own it.
At Skoda, our new ozone sterilisation system kills 99% of viruses and bacteria in every car. Good to know when buying an approved used Skoda. And across our new range, get a finance offer from 0% and a 3-month payment holiday. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland and subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply. Visit skoda.ie for further information.
Whatever else changes, looking after baby is still top of every parent's list. With everyday savers from Dunnes Stores, we've got cooling and soothing baby wipes, only 95¢. Skin-friendly super absorbent newborn nappies from €1.39. And baby dry nappies designed for comfort and long-lasting